Am I the asshole for leaving after finding out my wife cheated and the kid I raised wasn't mine? Hey, before we move on to the video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. I guess the only way to make sense of all this is to start from the beginning. I met Emily when I was 22. I just started working full-time after finishing a trade program. She was 24, worked in marketing, and had this warmth that just pulled people in. You ever meet someone who makes you feel like you've known them your whole life within the first 10 minutes? That was her. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party. She laughed at my dumb jokes, told me I had kind eyes, and gave me her number before I even asked. It moved fast, yeah. In hindsight, maybe too fast. Within a month, we were spending almost every day together. I'd never really had a serious relationship before. Nothing past 6 months. But with her, it felt real. Like I could build something. Like we were on the same team. 10 months in, she told me she was pregnant. I remember the moment vividly. We were sitting on her hand-me-down couch in her apartment, eating pizza, when she said she needed to tell me something. I thought it was going to be something minor. Maybe she'd lost her job or something. But no, she pulled out the test and just waited for me to react. I didn't flip out. I didn't run. I wasn't thrilled either. Not at first. I was scared, obviously. I was still figuring out how to be an adult. But I looked at her and I thought, if she's willing to go through with this, I need to be willing too. I stepped up. I got a second job doing deliveries in the evenings. I moved into her place so we could save on rent. I gave up my car and started biking to work so we could afford diapers and prenatal vitamins. Her family praised me every chance they got. "You're a real man," her dad said once, clapping me on the back. Emily picked a good one. My parents were proud too, even if they worried I was moving too fast. But I kept telling them, and myself, that I was ready. When our son, Dylan, was born, I cried. I know guys say that a lot, but I genuinely did. The nurse placed him in my arms, this tiny, wrinkly, squirming thing with a shock of dark hair and lungs that could probably shatter glass. And I just lost it. I'd never felt that kind of love before. I felt like he needed me, that I was his protector, his provider, his person. And so I became that. I took the late-night feedings so Emily could rest. I worked 12-hour shifts, came home, changed diapers, gave baths. I memorized which lullabies calmed him down the fastest. When he had colic and screamed every night for 2 straight months, I walked circles around our apartment at 3 a.m. whispering, "Shh, it's okay, Daddy's got you," until my legs were numb. I gave up a job opportunity that would have taken me to another state because I didn't want to miss Dylan's first words or first steps. I turned down weekends with friends because I wanted to be present. I wasn't perfect. I got stressed, snapped a few times when I was running on empty, but I loved that kid more than I thought was possible. People say parenting is thankless, but for me, it didn't matter. Every time he looked at me and smiled, every time he crawled into my lap with his blanket and just existed in that little world of safety we built, it felt worth it. I used to look at him and think, I made this. We made this. He's my boy. And if there were ever any doubts, I buried them. Because love, I thought, was more important than DNA. That belief would eventually break me. For a long time, I didn't think twice about anything. I was busy working, parenting, just trying to keep everything together. And honestly, I think I wanted not to think too hard. I loved Dylan. That felt like enough. But there were things, little things, stuff I shrugged off in the moment, but now, I can't stop thinking about them. The first weird moment came when Dylan was about 2.5. My mom and I took him to a park near her place, and there was this woman there with her kids, someone my mom had known years ago. They started chatting while Dylan played in the sandbox. At some point, the woman turned to me and said, "He's cute. Doesn't look much like you, though. Must take after Mom's side." It was such an innocent comment. One of those things people say without thinking. I laughed it off. My mom forced a smile, but later that night, she brought it up. "You ever think about doing a paternity test?" she asked carefully. "Just for peace of mind?" I got pissed. Not blow up angry, but that cold, bitter kind of piss that just sits in your chest. I told her to drop it. That Emily would never do something like that to me. That it was insulting to me, to Emily, to Dylan. She let it go. I didn't. From that point on, though, it started to gnaw at me. There was the blood type thing when Dylan was 4. He got a nasty cut on his knee climbing a jungle gym. The bleeding wouldn't stop, so we took him to urgent care. One of the nurses asked about his blood type. Emily said a positive. I paused. I'm O negative, I said. Emily just said, oh, must be from my side, and kept it moving. But something about that didn't sit right. I Googled it later that night. Turns out, two people with certain blood types can't produce a child with another. O negative and a negative, for example, can't make a positive. I asked Emily about it again the next day, and she just snapped, you really want to argue with Google over your own kid? I backed off. Again, because how do you even have that conversation? Hey, I think the kid I've raised for 4 years might not be mine. You don't. Not unless you're sure. And I wasn't. I love Dylan. I was afraid of what would happen if I opened that door. But the doubt stayed. Another time, we were at Emily's parents' house for Thanksgiving. Her cousin Tyler got drunk and started mouthing off. He was loud, obnoxious, and always had a way of getting under people's skin. We'd never really gotten along, and he clearly didn't like that Emily had settled down with a blue-collar guy. At one point, after a tense conversation about politics, he muttered, "Can't believe you're playing dad to someone else's kid, man." I froze. So did Emily. "What did you say?" I asked. He smirked and said, "Nothing. Don't be so sensitive." Emily laughed it off. Literally laughed. Ignore him. He's drunk and divorced and bitter. But I couldn't ignore it. It was too specific. Too sharp. That night, I asked her straight up, "Has anyone ever questioned whether Dylan is mine?" She looked at me like I'd slapped her. "Why would you even ask that? Do you not trust me?" I tried to explain. The comments. The blood type. Tyler's jab. But she shut down. Slammed the bedroom door. Said I was accusing her of being a liar and a whore. That I was disrespecting our family. That I should be ashamed of myself. I ended up apologizing. It was easier. Safer. I told myself it was stress. That I was being paranoid. That people say dumb things sometimes. I reminded myself that Dylan called me daddy every morning and hugged my leg when I came home from work. That he loved when I read him his favorite book, The Gruffalo, and did all the voices. That he had my smile. Or maybe I just thought he did. But that doubt never really left me after that night. A few months later, Dylan had a birthday party. One of the moms pulled me aside and asked if I was just the stepdad or the bio dad too. She wasn't trying to be mean. She just didn't know. Said something like, "He looks like your wife's side. Those big hazel eyes." I laughed, but it hit like a punch in the throat. I started watching Dylan more closely after that. Watching Emily too. And the worst part was, I wanted to believe I was just insecure. That I was losing my mind. That I had a deep fear of being abandoned or replaced, and it was projecting onto this innocent little boy who had never done anything wrong. But I couldn't shake the growing feeling that something was off. So one night, after putting Dylan to bed, I sat in the kitchen with my phone and Googled where to buy an at-home DNA kit. I stared at the order form for 20 minutes before clicking submit. I didn't even know if I'd go through with it. But part of me already knew. I sat on the results for 2 days before I opened them. The DNA test kit had been simple enough. A cheek swab from Dylan, one from me. I'd waited until Emily was out running errands, told Dylan it was a fun little science game. He giggled the whole time. I felt sick doing it. But the worst part wasn't the guilt. It was the knowing. The quiet voice that had gone from a whisper to a scream over the past year. When the results came in, I opened the email alone in the garage with the car, turned off, and the door locked. My hands were shaking. I still remember the words burned into my memory like a brand. Probability of paternity, 0%. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. It felt like someone had knocked the air out of me. Like I'd fallen off a building and hadn't hit the ground yet. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just shut down. I went back into the house, said nothing. Dylan was in the living room building a Lego spaceship. He looked up and said, "Daddy, look," with this huge, proud smile. I nodded, told him it looked awesome. Then I went into the bathroom and threw up. For 2 days, I didn't say anything to Emily. I watched her like a stranger. Every laugh, every smile, every kiss on my cheek made my stomach twist. I didn't know how I was going to say it, or if I was going to say it. A part of me wanted to bury it and pretend I never saw the results. But I couldn't unknow it, and I couldn't live with the lie. So on the third night, after Dylan had gone to bed, I sat Emily down in the kitchen. "I need to talk to you," I said. She glanced up from her phone. Everything okay? I did a paternity test, I said. Just like that. She didn't blink. Didn't even look shocked. Her mouth opened like she was going to say something, but then she just shut it again. You knew, I said. My voice cracked. You knew, didn't you? Silence. Then she looked away, down at the floor, and whispered yes. That was the moment everything inside me broke. All those sleepless nights, all the birthday parties, all the scraped knees and lullabies and trips to the ER and coloring books and stories before bed. Every single one of those moments, she let me live them believing I was his father. Who is it? I asked. My voice didn't even sound like mine anymore. Who's the real dad? She shook her head. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. More silence. Finally, she said it. Jason. That stopped me cold. Jason was her old friend from college. We used to go on double dates with him and his wife. Dylan had called him Uncle Jason. I stood up so fast the chair tipped over. You've got to be kidding me. I was going through a rough patch with you, okay? She snapped. It was just one time. I didn't even know I was pregnant until a few weeks later. I wasn't sure at first, but deep down, I think I always knew it wasn't yours. And you let me sign that birth certificate? You said you wanted to. You said you'd be there no matter what. I said that because I thought he was mine. She started crying. Full on, red-faced sobbing. You're his dad. You always will be. He loves you. You're the one who's been there. Jason's a coward. He won't step up. He's got his own family. He doesn't even want Dylan to know. That broke me in a different way. He doesn't want Dylan to know. Like this kid is some accident to be erased. Meanwhile, I've been breaking my back for 6 years trying to give him a good life. I need to leave, I said, grabbing my keys. Emily grabbed my arm. Please don't do this. You're going to destroy everything. He's going to be devastated. I looked her dead in the eyes. You destroyed it the second you lied to me. Then I left. I didn't even have a plan. I just drove, parked in a Walmart parking lot, and sat there for 4 hours staring at nothing. The sun came up, and I was still in the car, numb and empty. The next day, I called my brother and told him everything. He told me to come stay with him. I packed a duffel bag while Emily sobbed in the doorway. Dylan was at school. I couldn't face him. As I walked out, she shouted after me. He's still your son whether you like it or not. I didn't say a word. I just kept walking. But those words, they followed me. They still do. The days after I left felt like living in a vacuum. Everything was muted, quiet, numb. I stayed on my brother's couch, barely ate, barely slept. He kept trying to get me to talk, but I couldn't. How do you even begin to explain the kind of betrayal that breaks your sense of reality? I'd raised Dylan since he was born. I became a father in every way that matters, except the one that counts on paper. And now, all that effort, all that love, felt like it had been stolen from me. Like someone had ripped out a part of my life and told me, that was never yours. The worst part? I missed Dylan. I still missed him. Every morning, I'd instinctively check my phone for photos, videos, anything. I'd scroll through old messages where Emily had sent me clips of him riding his bike or singing in the car. I'd watch them like an addict needing a hit, even though it made me sick to my stomach. A week after I left, Emily started texting me. First it was apologies. Then it turned into guilt tripping. You're abandoning him. He asks where you are every night. You're breaking his heart. I ignored them for a while. But the longer I stayed silent, the more aggressive she got. Then her parents got involved. I got a call from her dad, this man who used to call me son. His voice was cold, clipped. I don't know what kind of man walks out on a child just because of biology. I was speechless. He knew. She had told them. And somehow I was the bad guy. She lied to me for 6 years. I said, stunned. Still your kid. You think this is hard for you? Imagine what this is doing to him. Then her mom called. Same script, different tone. Sweetheart, I know you're hurting, but you have to be the bigger person here. I wanted to scream. Be the bigger person? After being manipulated, humiliated, used? No one was calling to ask how I was. Just to pressure me back into the role they wanted me to keep playing. Even my own parents got pulled in. My mom called one afternoon and said Emily had shown up at their place with Dylan. He was crying, she said. He just kept saying, "Where's Daddy?" That broke me. I hung up and went into the bathroom and sobbed like I hadn't sobbed since I was a kid. Because I missed him. Because none of this was his fault. Because the world was treating me like I was some selfish monster who walked away for no reason. But I hadn't walked away for no reason. I walked away because I was lied to for 6 years. Because I gave everything I had to something that was built on a lie. The next time Emily texted me, it was different. If you don't want to be part of his life, I'll take you off the birth certificate. Just say the word. That should have made it easier. It didn't. Instead, it made the weight of everything hit even harder. That document had been the only legal tie I had to Dylan. It was a lie, sure, but had been my lie. The only thing I had left. And now she was offering to erase it. Like I'd never been there. Like none of it had ever happened. I didn't respond. Instead, I called a lawyer. I wanted to know my rights. I didn't want custody, not yet. I just wanted to understand where I stood. And what I found out made me even sicker. In my state, because I signed the birth certificate and acted as Dylan's father for years, I could still be held legally and financially responsible. Even though I wasn't the biological dad. Even though Emily admitted she'd known all along. I could be forced to pay child support if she decided to come after me for it. I could be dragged into court for a child that wasn't even mine. And she knew that. She had all the power. That's when the anger really hit. She used me. For years. Let me believe I was a father while the real dad vanished in the background. And now, when I finally walked away, she got to play the victim. To everyone else, I was the villain who left a 6-year-old crying at the window. No one wanted to talk about how I'd been deceived, lied to, trapped in a life I didn't choose. All they saw was a man walking away from child. But here's the thing, I still love Dylan. I still wanted to be in his life. But I needed time. I needed space. I needed to figure out what kind of relationship, if any, I could have with him that didn't involve being manipulated by his mother or gaslit by her family. I started seeing a therapist. Best decision I made in that entire mess. He helped me untangle the guilt from the love, the trauma from the truth. He told me something I'll never forget. You can't be responsible for someone else's lie, but you can choose how to live with it. That hit me like a freight train. Eventually, I sent Dylan a letter. I didn't explain everything. He was too young. But I told him I loved him, that I missed him, that I wasn't gone forever. I was just figuring some things out. I didn't hear back. Emily never responded. I think she realized she couldn't control me anymore. But that letter was for me as much as it was for him. A way of saying I was here. I tried. I loved him. It mattered, even if no one else believed it. It's been 8 months since I left. 8 months since my world cracked open and everything I thought I knew about my life turned to ash. 8 months of therapy, reflection, anger, guilt, and grief. Emily never came after me for child support, at least not yet. Maybe she realized going to court would mean putting everything on the record. Maybe she was too proud. Maybe Jason decided to quietly step in with money behind the scenes. I don't know, and honestly, I don't care anymore. Her family still hates me. I've heard through the grapevine that they're telling everyone I abandoned my son after a breakdown. They don't mention the DNA test. They don't mention that their daughter lied. In their version of the story, I'm a deadbeat who gave up when fatherhood got hard. Let them talk. My own parents have been split about it. My mom still talks to Emily sometimes. She says she feels bad for Dylan and that I should at least try to be in his life. My dad, on the other hand, told me I was right to leave. He said, "It's not about the kid. It's about the lie. You can't build your life on someone else's lie and expect it to stand forever." He's right. But what haunts me, still to this day, is Dylan. I think about him constantly. I dream about him. I see kids his age at the store and my chest gets tight. Every time I hear someone call their dad daddy, I feel in my gut. I loved him. Deeply. Purely. Unconditionally. And yet, I also had to walk away. Because staying would have meant living in a prison built on someone else's betrayal. Staying would have meant letting Emily control the narrative, control me, forever. I wasn't just betrayed, I was used. But the hardest thing I've ever done was leaving that kid behind. And I'm not proud of it. I'm not at peace with it. I'm just surviving. In the past few months, I've started building a new life. I got my own apartment. I finally went back to the gym. I've even started dating again. Slowly, carefully. I'm upfront about everything. I can't afford another lie. Therapy has helped. I've learned that love doesn't cancel out betrayal. That just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to stay in it. I'm learning to forgive myself for believing the lie and for not catching it sooner. for giving so much to something that never had a solid foundation. One day, maybe I'll hear from Dylan. Maybe he'll find that letter and come looking for answers when he's old enough to understand. I don't know what I'll say, but I know I'll tell him the truth. That I loved him. That I never walked away from him. I walked away from a lie I didn't deserve. So, am I the asshole? People ask that, right? I know this isn't a typical post with a clear-cut answer, but sometimes I still wonder if I could have done it differently. If I should have stayed, fought harder, found a middle ground. But the truth is, I did what I had to do to save myself. And if that makes me the villain in someone else's story, so be it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button.